The Bible is an amazing book. It's not just a collection of stories. It's one big story where everything points to Jesus. It begins with God creating a perfect world and placing a perfect couple in the middle of it. But Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and sin and death entered the world. God decided to judge the earth by sending a great flood, but he told Noah to build an ark so the animals and Noah's family could be saved. One of Noah's descendants was a man named Abraham. God promised Abraham that his family would be used to bless the whole world. The Israelites would have a special land to live in and would be as countless as the stars in the sky. When a famine spread through the land, God used Joseph to bring the Israelites to Egypt. But after a time, the Egyptians made them their slaves. So God raised up another leader, Moses, to rescue his people and lead them to the promised land. God performed amazing miracles along the way. He taught the Israelites how to live. He showed them how to build a tent called the tabernacle, where sacrifices could be offered for their sins. But even after they arrived in the promised land, the Israelites continued to rebel. They worshiped idols and demanded a human king instead of God. God was patient and allowed them to have a king. One of those kings was David, who defeated Goliath. David's son Solomon built a beautiful temple for God that replaced the tabernacle, but Solomon's sin caused the kingdom to be split in two. During this difficult time, prophets like Isaiah told the people about the Messiah. The Messiah would make things right with God again. Even when the Israelites were conquered by other kingdoms, they held on to the promise that one day the Messiah would come and rescue them. In time, God led the Israelites back to the land. The temple was rebuilt. Jerusalem's walls were repaired. The prophet Malachi foretold that the Messiah was on the way. Then, silence. For 400 years, God remained quiet. The silence was broken by the cry of a tiny baby born in a manger. His name was Jesus. Jesus was the Messiah. He lived a sinless life, performed miracles, and showed the people how to return to God again. Some believed Jesus, most did not. He was arrested and crucified on a cross. And then something amazing happened. 3 days after his death, Jesus came to life again, conquering death and defeating sin once and for all. At the beginning, we said that all of the Bible points to Jesus. So you might think it's strange that he appears so late in the story. Or does he? Look closely, and you'll find signs that point to Jesus right from the very beginning. God used the ark to save Noah, pointing to the day when we would find salvation in Jesus. God promised to bless the world through Abraham's family, which he did through Jesus. The sacrifices pointed to Jesus, who became the ultimate sacrifice for our sin. The pages of the Bible are filled with stories that point us to Jesus. But the story doesn't end there. Jesus' friends carried his message to the ends of the earth. Faithful followers like Peter, Paul, and others shared the good news wherever they went. And you and I have the same calling. We are to share Jesus wherever we go until one day he returns to make everything right again. Yes, the Bible is full of amazing stories, But really, it's all about Jesus. That's the story. That's his story.
Knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. To him be glory, glory, glory. Grow now and forever. Grow now and forever. Amen. To him be glory, glory, glory. Grow now and forever. Grow now and forever. Amen.
Oh, here we go, Rising! Yeah! Just getting started up in this place. You guys ready to come in? Right here. Here we go. Here we go.
Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. To him be glory, glory, glory. Grow now and forever. Grow now and forever. Amen. To him be glory, glory, glory. Grow now and forever. Grow now and forever. Amen. 2 Peter 3:18. 2 Peter 3:18. 2 Peter 3:18. 2 Peter 3:18.
In the darkness, we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes, to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word, from a throne of endless glory, to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. To reveal the kingdom breath, till that storm was moved for good. For the Lamb had conquered death, and the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe. For the souls of all who'd come to the Father are restored, and the Church of Christ was born. Then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, shall not faint, but His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings.
Serving. Some people have the gift of teaching others. They serve God by helping people know Jesus and His Word better. Some are gifted in creative ways, like dancing or playing music. They are serving others by helping people worship and give thanks to God. People cook, clean or welcome us into their homes or church. They are showing the gift of hospitality. CrossCulture assists, serves so many people, providing foods for those who are really struggling during the pandemic. Many people use their gifts of outreach, serve God here in Melbourne and different parts of the world to share the good news of Jesus. Some people's gifted in encouraging others, pre-urging, sound booth, counting money, organising events, praying, and many more. It happens not just at church, but during the week too. When we use the gifts God's given us to serve Him and others, we are showing Jesus' love with honoring and glorifying Him.
Hey kids, have you ever thought about why you go to church?
Maybe you go to church because your parents make you.
Or because you get a snack from your kid's church teacher.
Or maybe you go because you have a lot of friends there. These reasons aren't bad, but there's better reasons why we go to church.
Reason number 1, to connect to Jesus. You usually don't learn about Jesus in school, so where else do you learn about him?
At church.
And that's important because the more you know about Jesus,
The more you can connect with him.
now let's take a look at what the Bible has to say.
Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me.
Now this verse isn't talking about growing fruit like apples or oranges. It's talking about us growing as Christians.
And the only way to do that is if you know Jesus and accepted him into your heart.
If you don't have Jesus in your heart yet, talk about it to a parent or teacher.
Reason number 2, to connect to other Christians. Did you know you can't be a great Christian all on your own?
That's why being friends with other Christians are really important.
Let's see what the Bible would say. Memory verse.
Let's think of ways to motivate another to acts of love and good works.
God wants us to love people and honor him with our actions.
And other Christians can help us do that.
They can let us know when we're grumpy and mean, or doing something that we shouldn't.
Reason number 3, to find and use your gifts.
Did you know God gave each of us gifts? Not gifts like a new toy or a video game.
The gifts he gave us allow us to do certain things really well.
Your gifts can be like singing really well in a large group. I have decided to follow Jesus. Maybe I don't have that gift.
Or maybe you're really good at being nice to new kids in your kids' church class.
Or maybe you're really good at making crafts in kids' church.
God gives us these gifts to help others and follow him.
So kids, next time you really don't feel like going to church, think of these 3 things.
Because going to church is one of the very best ways to becoming a better Christian kid.